Morning. Morning. Morning, Ian.
Good morning.
Oh, you sound very cheery.
It's just pretend, everything's an act, isn't it?
Yeah.
We can't let it get us down.
Yeah. Right, phone turned off.
Oh.
Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Prue. You well?
I think so. Hi, Emma.
Hi, everyone. I'm happy to nominate Brian.
I'll second that.
And I've nominated in the chat Lucinda Shirley as well, so I was trying to type, so I nominated Brian as well, but I'm happy to second either. Sorry. Apologies.
Thank you, Sina. Thank you, everyone. We need a vice chair because obviously I was vice chair beforehand. So, is there any people nominating themselves or a nomination for vice chair at all?
I'm happy to nominate Deborah Brialt if she's happy to stand. I think she's got good qualifications and experience for the role.
Thank you.
Thank you, Corinna. I'm happy to stand.
Thank you. Thank you, Deborah. Shirley, your hand's still up. Was that a legacy hand? No. Andy, you've got your hand up.
Apologies, legacy hands. My apologies.
Lovely, thanks, Andy. I think Shirley might be the same. So, would anyone like to second Deborah?
I'll second Deborah.
Lovely, thank you, Sarah. So we're now voting for Deborah to be vice chair. Again, that looks pretty unanimous. So welcome along, Deborah, and I look forward to meeting with you with the pre-meets and so forth as we move forward.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Right. First thing we need to be looking at is the minutes from the previous meeting in July. So if we just go through, firstly, listen, is there any apologies?
Yes, I have apologies from Liz Woodard, Luke Henderson, Jen Comber, and Ian Morgan may be able to join us later, but it's apologies for now.
Lovely. Okay, thank you very much. So just looking, obviously, if we need factual corrections. So we've got the first page of the minutes from the 12th of July. Anything that anyone wants to comment on? Ian, is your hand, Ian Piddock, is your hand a legacy hand as well, or? Yeah, thank you. Okay, the second page, page 8. Page 9. Page 10. Page 11. Page 12. And then the final page 13. The only thing I'd like to bring up, I mean, we were going to talk to Ian Morgan about representation from the independent providers to go on to BEP. Have you arranged for that to happen?
Sorry, I tried to get an action. Can you please repeat that?
So yeah, we're looking. Ian Morgan brought up about representation on BEP for the early years providers, and it had down that you were going to look at having them included. Have we made contact with Ian to invite him to future BEP meetings?
Sorry, I don't have that update. I will come back to this meeting later.
Okay.
Right,
okay, so we just need to make sure Ian's part of that on the BEP that was agreed in that meeting. Okay, item 6. This was from Helen. This is to do with outcome-based community report forms part of the school forum. So is anyone from the office there to report on that part? Because no, Helen's not with us. Ming, do we have anyone regarding that matter? Prue.
Sorry, click on various buttons. I don't think there is anything to report under that heading. It was a sort of matters arising type thing.
Okay.
I think everything that we would want to talk about is already covered later on in the agenda.
Lovely. Okay, thank you very much. Right, item 7. We're looking at school forum membership now. Lucinda and I met during the summer break and looked at the different membership, because with a number of schools now converted to academies, we had to look at how we were matching the ratio of pupils to maintain to academy. Lucinda, do you want to take it from there about what we decided, or would you like me to carry on?
Yeah, we've done an analysis, and I think you would have gathered from the reports that there is a general move towards more schools becoming academies, and Schools Forum is supposed to reflect that in its membership. So we've made a proposal to reduce the number of maintained primary school representatives and increase the number of primary academy representatives. We propose to retain the same number of secondary academy representatives, and this is the main change, and it's just reflecting the change that's been happening and is expected to continue going forward. We talked about the fact that 23 members seems to work. We have in the past had larger numbers of people, and that didn't work so well, so this seems to be a good number. Also highlight the fact that we don't have any governors on the Schools Forum, and that is a must. The guidelines tell us that we need to have a governor representative, so we're urging people to talk to governors in their schools, people with the relevant background and experience to join. So we currently have vacancies for primary academy representatives. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Brian?
No, apart from I'd like to welcome Nikki Taylor-Dickens, who is at Willowbank Infants, who is going to be the maintained primary representative. So welcome, Nikki. And then we've got Jen Comer's taking over from the head at Bowhunt. And then we've got Andy Hincliffe from St. Crispin's, who'll be joining us on the academy secondary side there. So we are still looking for, I think it's 3 academy primary representatives, and hopefully we're looking at somewhere in there, as Lucinda said, a governor or lab member is quite crucial. So people could talk to their bodies. That'd be great.
I would like. I think we probably should take a vote
Yes.
to and ask people if they are happy with this proposal, if they accept this new structure.
Ian.
Thank you. Just a minor observation, really. I wonder if we could ensure that the representation comes from the academies, comes from different trusts, that not one trust is overrepresented and other trusts are not represented. Otherwise, there is a danger if too many people come from one trust. I'm sorry, organisations work the way organisations work. In fact, there's a risk, I'm not saying it's an actuality, it's just a risk that they will be speaking as one voice rather than different voices. So if we could spread it around the trusts, please.
We do currently have representations from majority of trusts in the area currently, but there's possibly one trust with more representation currently at the moment, but something to look at. Ian, thank you. Shirley.
I think it was the same kind of point as Ian's just made. I think it'd be useful where there's schools' names down, that if they are part of a trust, to put in brackets what trust they're part of. I think then it would be clarity, because sometimes when you look, and particularly as primaries join and secondaries join, sometimes you're not able to keep track of what trust people are in. You know, I know you're part of a trust, Brian. I can't remember off the top of my head what part of a trust you are. So I know it's not a local one, but equally, if that was in here, I think as it's a public meeting, I think for full disclosure, I think that would probably help. It would then probably safeguard all of us as well.
We can do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So as it stands for this academic year, is everyone happy with the structure? If we can just have votes for yes, people could just vote for those now in the chat. Thank you. I think Lucinda, you can take it as a favoured, yeah.
Thank you.
Also, while we're on the school forum, it'd be good. It'd be good to just confirm this forum task finished groups. Last year, Darren, are you happy to continue leading and chairing the schools block group?
Yeah, happy to do that, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then we had Karina, Chris, Carol, Julie, and Margaret all on that group. All those members happy? If you're not, just say so now. If not, we'll assume you are happy.
Yeah, happy to be on that, Brian.
Thank you, Karina.
Happy to.
Carol, I'm happy as well.
Lovely. So that, because that has been a very successful group as well. But the high needs, we had Karina, Sarah, Raj, and Deborah. Those four still happy to be part of that high needs block group.
Yeah, happy to, Brian.
Thank you.
Yes,
Happy to, Brian.
That's fine.
If anyone else would like to join that group, please let us know, because that is also another important group that we're dealing with at the moment, especially with safety valve. And then on early years, we've got Ian, Kerry, and Karen. Again, I'm not too sure if they're all on this call, so we can check with them after listening to make sure that they're okay. Continue with that group as well. Right, lovely. So next matter, we're looking
Sorry,
at...
Brian, could I ask another question on membership? Apologies, I put my hand up again, if that's okay. It's just in terms of going forward, I think, again, just going back to the point that Ian and I were making, is as people become join trusts and they're down for maintain school, will you be replacing them, or are we now agreeing? I think just to feel clear for clarity, are we now agreeing this is it for the year, regardless of who moves into trusts, etc., throughout the year? Or is it going to have to be fluid if somebody was into a trust and then we haven't got a maintained representative? Just so we're clear now from the outset what the situation is with that. Because I think people are going to, the movement between now and 2030 is going to be quite fluid. So just for clarity, please, or has a decision made, or is that something we need to discuss further at a later meeting?
Last year we used what was at the beginning of September. What we agreed at the beginning of the year was how that structure was. So if those mid-year people turned into an academy or converted, then they still remained on the board. And then if it is that we've got full with academy reps, then there'll be a vacant place, and that person would probably have to leave. We'd have to look at the structure of the academy. Someone left. Yeah,
we could maybe add throughout the year. So if there's lack of maintain, we add an additional member, maybe just to make sure the maintains are being still representative, possibly. Okay.
Yeah, but we're basically stuck to that structure for the year, because otherwise we found it was getting a bit messy during.
I agree. All right, thanks.
No, thank you. So we're on to revenue monitoring report. I'm not sure if this is going to be Emma or Catherine. Catherine.
It's me. I have the joy. Morning, everyone. Let me just share my screen. I'm sure you've all read the report already, but I'll just share it on the screen as well, so it's there. Okay. So hopefully that's sharing. Oh, Shirley, have you still got your hand up, or is that an old hand? No, okay.
No, I had it down.
Wow, that was amazing. I thought you got a question already. That's brilliant.
No, it was down. It was down. Sorry.
Catherine, can we just introduce Al Moore before?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. So Al Moore. Hi, Al. He joined our team this week. So I'll let you introduce yourself, Al.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you. Yeah, I'm Al Moore, the new finance business partner for Children's. So yeah, be working with you all in the future.
Welcome, Al.
Right, okay, so revenue monitoring, we've obviously our deficit has gone the wrong way. It's increased by 2 million from what we reported in July, and then it's the high needs block as per usual. That has caused the increase. I've just said in here what has created that increase. So we've still got the children that are being kept in mainstream that are we're looking for special places, and we're having to increase costs for alternative provision while they're in mainstream schools. So that's a big expense there. And while we're still waiting for our special schools to come on board, we're sending children out of borough special schools. So that has increased cost as well, and independent schools too. FE colleges, we've got lots more children that have gone into colleges, which is kind of better because most of them actually cost less than when they're in an independent school. So that is a bit of good news that they can go from an independent special setting to a mainstream college, which is good news. And we also have a few children on EOTAS packages, and we have some couple of really expensive packages that have come on board this term. So that's why that's moved so much. Also, our income was taken down. So what the DFE change our income during the year to do with the import-export adjustment. So they base it at the beginning of the year on what our net import-export was for last year, and then they adjust it in year. So we actually sent more children out than we had in than last year. So that's why we have had some income taken off of us. So that's why that's reduced. But I thought this time in this report, I'd just talk about a bit of risks and opportunities, things that actually the Safety Valve are doing to help address these things that will be happening in the pipeline through the programme of Safety Valve. So obviously we've got the special schools coming on board. Oak Tree opened this term, which is a shared school with Reading. That's taken 52 children this term. 25 of them are Wokingham children, so that's stopped them having to go out of borough. Addington have opened up a satellite, well, will be opening up a satellite school for the younger children. So that's opening after October half term, I believe. And then we've got the 2 new free schools that are going to be opening in September 26. Obviously, you'll see the impact of that a lot later, but it's in the pipeline there. So yeah, you can read all the rest of them. It's not very exciting. Has anyone got any questions on the high needs block before I move on to early years? No. Okay. So the early years block, I don't think Ian's on the call, but the government put out the supplementary grant that started this term, and that was additional funding for 3 and 4 year olds and 2 year olds. The rates there 44p an hour and £2.59 an hour for 2 year olds, which brought their rate up to £8.99 an hour, which is a lot for 2 year olds. And we've passed that 100% out to all the settings, so they've going to receive that for the next 2 terms, and then that would be built into the rates for next financial year. The reserve fund for last year, I don't know if you remember, we keep back a bit of contingency for new settings that come on board, or if we get any additional children that come into the borough. We had anticipated, sorry, this is here. We had anticipated a clawback, but actually we only got a much smaller clawback than we thought. So the additional funding that we've got to make sure that we're still passing out 95% to our settings, we'll be giving that out to the earlier settings as an hourly rate based on last year's hours taken, as we've done in the past. So that'll be coming out to school, the settings this term. And there's no variances in the schools block, central school services block. So let's just get down to it. Yeah, so has anyone got any questions? No, it's not very interesting.
It's good on your part, Catherine. Prue.
Yeah, it's not a question really, it's a comment, because I think all of us are aware that the high needs block deficit is growing, and it's growing and it's growing and it's grown every year since 2017. And obviously we're coming on to discussion of what we can do about it with some of the safety valve things. I don't know whether everybody's stunned into silence by the size of the deficit, or is saving their points for the next item, or just looking at this and thinking, well, it's no different to other years. The problem is that it's getting worse, and that the previous situation we were in, where although you were supposed to bring it back to 0 in a 3-year cycle, nobody ever applied that. It is going to apply in a couple of years' time. That's the indication from the government that we will have to close that gap. And I just hope people understand that it's not. We can't go on like this. So we have to address it. We can't address it as the council and schools. We have to address it together. So I hope we're going to have a good discussion on the next item. But it's getting really difficult now, guys. Really difficult.
Thank you, Prue. And as you said, we'll be discussing it in a bit more detail when we come to that item. Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Catherine? No. Lovely. Thank you, Catherine.
Right.
Moving on to the next item, it is, I think, back with you as well, on the DSG budget update.
Sorry, I thought I was going to be later. Sorry. Let me just find that bit. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so this is just what we've been getting up to try and set the budget for next year. So we received our PUF and SUF values in July, which is our primary units of funding and secondary units of funding, so that we could start modelling how much income we thought we were going to be getting in, to see what the rules are for setting the budget for next year, because every year we're trying to get closer and closer to the NFF, and we've got less and less local things that we can change locally to support our schools, because we used to keep the for example, we kept the lump sum up artificially high to protect our smaller schools, but things like that's now getting reduced and reduced down, that we have to be within this sort of set ranges to make us closer to the NFF. This is just comparing what we had for this current year to what we've got for next year. So we have got an increase in there for all of our blocks, which is good news. So everyone's going to be getting more money. Oh, Carol, hi.
There's been reports in the media over the last couple of days that the government got these numbers wrong. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it's a little bit of scaremongering. It's not the figures that we're getting in. So we're going to get exactly the same income in that we were going to get anyway. It's these figures down here. So it's these ones that are. This was reported. I put this in the report before they obviously changed it last week. But it's these minimum per pupil level protection figures that have gone down. So I think I put a little spreadsheet together. So that, I don't know if you can see that now, but no, it's not very big either, but that's what they are going to be. So everyone's still getting an increase. So instead of, it's like 1% less basically for that protection. So we'll still have the same income in, we're giving it out in the same way. So the way that we consult on with schools, we'll be doing exactly the same way. That's not affected anything. What it does mean, it's just a variation across schools. We did some modelling. We got the new tool through to do the modelling with late on Monday. We're working on it yesterday, and it's just about a 1% up and down across all the schools, like a range. Some schools it doesn't affect at all, and some we've seen about 1% less, some and up to 1% more. So it's not as bad as what the media said. Definitely. Hi, Darren.
Hi, Catherine. Thank you for all that. Would it be fair to say that on that modelling, it's the schools that are the least funded, i.e. those who are on minimum funding guarantee, are going to be affected the most because those minimum per pupil funding levels have dropped?
Yeah, so it was the schools with this less pupil numbers actually. Yeah, so the ones that are on minimum funding guarantee were the ones that would have been affected more, but it's up to just like 1% less.
1% is quite a large number when you're running a deficit in a school.
Yeah, but it's still more than you got for this year because we've got more funding in the system. So because the
costs are higher.
Yeah, I know, but schools didn't know that they were going to get what they were going to get. Yeah, did they? Because we were just
some of us did.
Yeah, I know. But it's still more overall. So everyone has got an increase. I think it was everyone was getting about 6% more, so it'll be 5% more overall as an average compared to this year. Sorry, Prue, did you want to say something, Prue? So I saw your hand pop up and down.
I just wanted to get the clarification of it was 1% of the increase. So it was absolute 1%.
Not 1% of what they've got this year. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, so we did the consultation with schools. A minute. So we with the task and finish group, we thought it'd be best to keep the MFG at 0.5%. We didn't put any cap on the gains, so anyone could have it. If we had an increase, we could keep the increase. And we also increased the free school meal factor to £300 because the way that they've done the minimum and maximum values, it's actually only about £100 for free school meals. We wanted to increase that to make sure schools got more funding for their free school meals. I haven't actually got the consultation results up ready to share, but basically for all of the questions to do with the principles of the formula, there was a resounding yes for everything 80% and above for every question that we asked to do with the principles of the formula. So the all through school protection, we've going to be doing the disapplication for that, so we'll be sending that before the deadline that we do every year, and we have to ask every year, but we do it every year. And also we've agreed to look into a falling roles fund as well. So that was something that schools wanted us to look at. So we'll be looking at different ways that we could fund that and getting the Task and Finish group involved with how we can do that, and then bringing that back to December Schools Forum.
I think there'd be a number of schools pleased about that part.
Yeah, so we need to just look at the SCAP returns. So I need to speak to Piers Brunning just to check how that actually would work, and that actually does mean that we would have to give out funding based on those returns. So just need to check that. Yeah, and that's just keeping a little bit of pot aside, like the growth fund, to keeping some money aside before we give it out to schools. Right. Oh, yes. So we did ask schools to provide us with their pupil numbers. We're still waiting for a few to come back to us, so I'll just send out another chasing email on that. But we just want, and I know the census was last week as well, but if we could get the pupil numbers in now, we can actually calculate what we think our growth and falling roles income will be. We can get that more specifics. We can know exactly what our income is going to be for next year, because we won't find out till December otherwise, once the DfE have looked at the October census. So if you haven't sent us your pupil numbers, please can you do that as soon as possible, because once we put everyone's in, then we'll know. We can't do it without. And then we can actually see what our income's going to be, like I said. And we think we're going to need about 1.5 million. We got 1.6 million in this year, but because there's this new way of doing it for next year with the growth and falling roles together, I'm not entirely sure what that's going to do to our income, hence asking for the pupil numbers. Early years block, so that's all changing. I don't know if Ian's joined yet, but they're going to extend the free entitlement range. So from April, they're going to extend the 2-year-old free entitlement across to not just the deprived 2-year-olds. And then from September 24, the age range is going to go down to 9 months. So we're waiting for the DfE to tell us what our rate's going to be for that. And I don't know how they're going to calculate where the 9-month-old children are going to come from. But anyway, we'll wait and see how we're going to get funded on that. And then we're doing the modelling on that in the spring term with the early years Task and Finish group to set rates for next year for that. Oh yeah, I've just said we need to set the Heine's Task and Finish group meeting up so we can get together and talk about the budget, setting the budget for next year. So we'll probably do that in like November time next month. So I'll send an email out to everyone, see when everyone's free. And that's it.
Any other questions or comments for Catherine? No. I think it's going to be a busy couple of months up the various Task and Finish groups for you there, Catherine.
Yeah.
Lovely, thank you. Right, so agenda 10, this is probably going to be the major part of the meeting. There's been a number of meetings held over the past week or two regarding this, and we've had the consultation in, various information, and it was quite a large talking point at the Barry Education Partnership meeting on Monday. So Ming, do you want to start things here?
Yes, I think Jonathan can join me to jointly to give you a heads up. Really, you have a report of the survey we have carried out among the head teacher on the proposal of 1% block transfer from school block to high need block. As colleagues can understand that this is part of importance commitment for Safety World, for the Department of Education to sign out our Safety World agreement. Without that, we can come back either to terminate our Safety World or stop the contribution. In other words, that can be a very negative impact on our SEND finance situation in Wokingham. As you can see, the context already been laid out by Kathleen, how bad our deficit situation is. We do have a two-stage survey. The first stage, what we call right space, right places. And in that surveys, we get some feedback from school. Basically, they were saying they agree in principle. This is something as a partner, school, local authority, health, that we need jointly to deliver safety vault, and local council put forward the equation fund, DFE, based on the condition DFE promise to give up funding. You also we secure 1% school block transferred. Had to understand that, but again, we do have feedback from school, kind of saying they are concerned about their school's own financial situation. And we do not have high number of feedback out of the school. The response for this first stage, we received 17 schools. That's 25% of all local schools. And then we carry out the second stage surveys. Let's really, I think, want to ask some more detailed questions to find out from school what they response would be for this 1% transfer. Again, it's very much confirmed what first stage survey been saying. We did secure majority agreement from secondary school to agree to the 1% transfers. Majority. However, far majority of primary school colleagues voted against. Again, the predominant reason being given is financial situation. On the feedback we have from the school, majority of them said we agree to the principle, but the financial situation cause our concern. That's about 76.5% of them said that. So obviously something we need to look into. School are so concerned about their own financial situation, whether we should collectively find alternative solution to this safety vault condition that we have already agreed with the DFE. I think you already have a report of the feedback of the surveys. I wouldn't want to go line by line to explain. So the key for this forum is consider the consequences if we do not secure block transfer. The likely consequence is DFE may want to review a safety vault. We may lose the investment from DFE. Currently, for example, we already see 8.4 million, on the condition that we will secure 1% block transferred or council make contribution from council tax. We need to submit our review to DFE for them to scrutinize every 3 months. So that means they can stop anytime. If they stop, consequence is enormous on us. As you can see, totally we will have 56 million in next 5 years' time in deficit if we don't really eliminate this deficit through this joint effort. So I think for this forum, I urge them to consider at the moment, based on the survey come back, 1% we do not secure majority support in the survey, not vote the support. But we must find a pragmatic solution to demonstrate our partnership, demonstrate our joint input in the safety vault to make sure our SCN system is every SCN system. I have said that it's not local authority SCN system, it's local area SCND system is sustainable. So also by doing that, we also demonstrate to DFE we have strong partnership, school, leader, health, and local authority, all actively finding solution to any financial difficulty that we need to overcome. So I'll give you a very, very high level heads up of that feedback and what do we think we need to do in this forum. We do look at any other possibility, if we, in a situation if we cannot secure 1% block transfer, one of them can be a compromise to the look into what school to address schools' concern, possibly less block transfer. I stop there. I think Jonathan want to chip in at this point. Jonathan, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, apologies, colleagues. I was in another call. I had to jump out of. I think just to say, I know the paper we submitted was still pressing for the 1% transfer. In discussion with Schools Forum colleagues in recent days, I think it's become perfectly clear that we understand school colleagues and Schools Forum representatives were unwilling to go against the school vote. The schools have voted 68% against the 1% transfer. We've accepted that. I think. Please bear in mind we only had a very, very quick turnaround between the survey results coming in and the School Forum paper coming out, which is why perhaps I was still pressing for the 1%. We've accepted that is not going to be a winnable vote here at Schools Forum, but we do hope. I think in conversation with many school colleagues, we believe you understand the urgent nature of this request. We understand. I think there's broadly a lot of support, 80%, up between 80 and 100% support for the proposals we're making in terms of the measures we're making, but it was largely in a question of affordability. Many schools felt they simply couldn't afford the 1% transfer. We have in recent days, I think, determined that a 0.5% transfer might be more palatable, would be more palatable. We know high school colleagues have already supported the request. Broadly speaking, the survey showed that high schools were in support. What we're asking for at this stage is a few more days. We believe some of the trusts and some of the primary schools who have been against, we think we need a further little round of dialogue around the 0.5% transfer. And we wish, I believe, I'm not sure, I missed the start of your presentation, you may have already said this, we need a few more days of dialogue to secure that support from everyone here. So we are proposing an emergency meeting of Schools Forum, and we'll come back to you once we've really been around for that last round of dialogue and engagement. I can see other people have got their hands up, so I'll step down for a moment.
I think Prue, you had your hand up there first.
Sorry, thank you, Brian. It's really just a bit of extra context for you. We're not asking schools for 1% because we think you can afford 1%. We're asking schools for 1% because that is the expectation placed on us by the DFE in the safety valve negotiations. And that is why we have asked for it. And actually it's factored in to all our safety valve calculations for the next 5 and a bit years that we've got left in the deal, because that is part of the negotiation we had with the DFE about setting up safety valve. As you will see in the paper, there's a £28 million contribution towards this from council tax over the next, the 6 years starting in March. There's a contribution from the DFE of about 20 million to write off deficit. It's not actual money that we can spend on anything, it's writing off deficit. And the final gap is made up of this transfer. The really frustrating, annoying, difficult thing for me personally, I think for all of us in the council, is that we would not be in this situation if we had a similar level of education funding to other areas in the council, but we're the third worst. So everything, we have a very low level, and we've just heard about the number of schools that were on the minimum guaranteed amount. But the DFE are not interested in our level of funding. they are only interested in reducing our level of spend. And so when we entered into this thing with the 1%, it's not based on the fact that anybody who in the DfE has considered what your income is. So we have had to ask for 1% because that is what the DfE has obliged us to do in our safety valve deal. I think it's become apparent, and I can't say it's utterly a surprise that schools are going to find that very difficult to do. And so we would like you to consider, and I think I'm hoping we'll hear from Brian and school colleagues shortly, but whether you'd be prepared to consider 0.5%. And the bit I really wanted to add on top of that is what the consequences are if we don't do it. So you've heard some of it, that the safety valve deal might collapse. The first immediate consequences, we may not get the 1.72 million, I think it is, in March, which will open up another bigger hole. But the whole thing could collapse altogether. And the consequence of that is that in about 3 years' time, the council will fall over. Now that sounds like a council problem. It's not it's a problem for everybody, because if we actually have to declare a Section 114 notice, we would have to if we were asked to pay off the deficit as the council, because it will fall on us. It affects not just the council, it affects everybody, because the commissioners will be sent into the council. All non-statutory spend will stop. So all the services that we supply to you as education providers, all the things that we do for the families that you look after, all the background stuff, all the early help and prevention stuff that isn't part of the statutory offering on the social care side, all those kind of things, how we run libraries, even how we do everything, will stop. We will have to sell off an awful lot of our assets. They will make us do that. That's what they're doing to Slough. And the council tax will go up, and every other authority said it's gone up at least 10%. So way twice the cap that it's allowed now. We will have massive staff losses. We will not be able to support schools in the same way that we do now. And I know you're not much fans of how we've been doing it in the past, but there's no possibility of improving it in the future. And it would just destroy everything that we have jointly been trying to work towards. So this is really a plea from me for you to consider it. We need to move on from the 1%. We were not able to come with any other offer than 1% to start off with, but 2 or 3 more weeks to discuss what might happen if we could do 1.5%, and whether you're prepared to do that, and to stress that it's not to prop up our SEND team in the council. It's actually to improve our SEND offering to schools by doing all the other bits. It will actually assist you, and in the long term will save us all. So it is an education system thing. It's not a council versus schools. We don't want to make you do this. We absolutely appreciate the difficulties that you've got, but this is a thing. I don't want to use the expression "we're all in this together" because it's been a bit discredited by things that have happened politically in the past. But unless we do this, solve this together, we're all going to come unstuck separately. So that's all I wanted to say about it.
Thank you, Prue. Ming.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, as Prue just said, that it's not about supporting local authority only, it's about making our SEND system financially sustainable. So school SEND system can operate normally. School support, any support for school will be there, early intervention, etc. Just the internal process. Even we agree to come up with a pragmatic second option with leftover on the table, for example, we do need to go back to DfE to let them know. So that our Section 111 officer will have to go back to that. Unfortunately, we may need to rewrite down not 1%. We cut it by half, etc. They will ask a tough question. who going to pick it up out the gap. I don't think DAV is going to pay for that. So they will probably end up a local council tax revenue to. It's not something you go away or someone have to fill the gap, but I think we will have to find a solution. It's very, very important. Prue already explained it really clearly. We need to work together. We are in this together, and we need to demonstrate to DAV we recognize the financial difficulty schools are in. We locally want to address the issue by reducing, if this forum agree, reducing the ask to 0.5%. But we work together. We come up with the jointly come up with a pragmatic solution. That's a really important partnership. They also want to see whether our local partnership, everyone have shared ownership or not. So this is the opportunity for us to show that we have a strong partnership. We have shared ownership. Yeah, that's from me, Chair.
Thank you, Ming. Darren, did you have your hand up? Did you want to add something? Or
it was just a question. Apologies,
Yep.
I'm going to put Catherine a little bit on the spot. In the central services block, I think we get about £1 million in. But I remember Catherine saying a few meetings ago that the council tops that up by about £1 million. I wonder whether just a little clarification on that, because obviously if the council does collapse, as Prue says, then those services are going to be significantly reduced for all schools, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so the Central School Services block funding is just a contribution towards what we have to do as the council. So it contributes towards school admissions and things like that. So yeah, I don't know, because it's a different fund on the general fund side, but how much exactly that costs the council. But we could look into that and see what that actually would mean.
I think having that number would certainly add to the argument for the transfer of the 0.5%.
Okay, thank you, Darren. Carol.
I completely understand everything that's being said, and I support the principle, but we also are in a situation where we have a number of schools whose 3-year, 5-year budgets look absolutely devastating, to be quite honest. What's the support for schools who aren't getting enough funding to put enough teachers in front of the children? Because I completely understand the views of the primary heads who are saying we can't manage with less money.
Catherine, Ming. Oh, Ming, are you going to pick that one? Ming, you're on mute.
My apologies. I tried to answer that question. We internally work out what school really in the difficult situations. We look at how much if this block transfer improve, how much it affect them, how much they are being affected. It's transpired that we do have a school in difficult situation, but they are under minimum funding guarantee. We have 24 schools, Kathleen, the county. They are protected. They are protected. I think, although that's not everything, that will minimize the impact on those schools who need minimum funding protection.
No, thank you, Ming. It's a fair point with Carol, because there are a number of schools out there who are struggling, but it's not going to be just this year. It's going to be over the next 5-6 years, isn't it? With the valve, so it's a consideration that needs to be looked into.
There's such a big disparity with schools as well. There's some schools that have so much funding that they're still carrying it forward. So there's the monies in the system. I think Jonathan put it in his paper. So the 1% funding that we needed, there's more than that already in the system that's sitting in schools' balances, but it's just not where it's kind of needed. It's really hard to put it where it is.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing that we're looking at how we can do better is that how we can get in earlier to have those conversations with schools and support them in the best way that we can earlier on before it gets that deficit situation. So Catherine, I think you've been out to a couple of schools this year and sort of help them to manage their budgets and working with them and doing that much earlier on. So Carol, if there are schools that you think that we need to talk to sooner, we need to know about them.
Catherine's been out, I should be talking about my own school, but Catherine's been out to speak to my school, and I think you've looked and there was not much that you could suggest that we could do differently.
No.
It's just the way that we're funded. We're on minimum funding guarantee and have been for some years. And there are other schools who are in similar circumstances, and looking at the situation moving forwards, it's not good. We have to have enough staff to teach the children that we're given, and if we don't have that, then we're not doing our job.
Yeah, and you had quite a high proportion of SEN children, didn't you, as well?
Yeah, Carol, I think that's conversation we should continue. I think we need to probably in our school following opportunity when discuss how to support school at risk of in deficit or already in deficit, how collective as community we can help. Internal impact, I think we will make sure that block transfer will have minimal or no impact on the school. We need to finance protections.
Thank you. And before I come to you, I think Nikki will have something very similar to what Carol has just mentioned. So I'll just go to Nikki first and then come to you. So Nikki.
I have no minimum funding guarantee. I work in a small infant school. We have an in-year deficit every year. I've just been through a restructure, so I have had to make redundancies of my TA support. Obviously, in an infant school, we need more support for the children because they're younger. On the Excel spreadsheet that came around, I wasn't actually being asked for 1%. I was being asked for 1.4%. So that's higher than anyone here is saying. In conversations with colleagues, they were shocked that I was having to pay 1.4% when they were having to pay nothing. And I had to say no because I could not afford 1.4%. You're welcome to come and look at my budget. I don't think there are anything that you would be able to take out of my budget because of the class sizes that I have to have. I can't merge them into mixed year groups because of the numbers I have. I've got a falling roll, so I've got some spaces in my year groups, but I still have too many children to put them together as a year 1-2 or in early years in year 1. My situation is pretty dire. And if I have to give more money, then I will have to make more redundancies. I have lots of children in the school with severe needs, special educational needs, and some of them should have one-to-ones, and I can't give them one-to-ones. I have to give them shared one-to-ones. I have children in my school that have had special named on their EHCP for years, and they're still in my school because no one can find them a place. It's not a good situation here. And I understand the impact that this is having on Woking and Borough Council, but it will have a really big impact on my school as well. And there are schools out there with massive carry forwards that are having to pay nothing to this, and it's just not very fair. Thank you.
Yeah, Nikki, it's okay. I make an appointment to meet with you, probably with the finance colleague.
Yeah, that'd be great.
To do that in more detail.
And maybe you could come in and see the school for itself, and you can see the children that we're trying to work with.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. Yeah. We arranged that out of the meeting. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Ian, thank you for waiting patiently.
Thank you. Yeah, it does sound like there's a need to look at some of the fairness there and a bit of clarity for everybody to understand how it affects everybody else. The thing I wanted to cover was that Prue talked about what happens with the 114 and commissioners coming in and raising council tax by 10%. There's a number of things that will probably happen. It's not just the lack of support for the schools from WBC. It's the fact that all those out of schools activities that the kids use will go. So you'll end up with loads of kids coming into school disgruntled because they've not burnt off all their energy elsewhere. They've lost their focus, and you're going to have to do all that in schools. It's also the fact that many families will be put into a more perilous financial situation. You're going to end up with more kids coming to school that don't have breakfast, that don't have school lunches. And again, you're going to have to deal with all that. And I'm sorry about that. This is appalling funding from the government. I've never liked the way this has been done. We are where we are. I think it strikes me that this 0.5% is probably our way out of dealing with it, hopefully temporarily. I'll just ask you to, I understand your financial situations, but I don't see another way out of it other than a total collapse in Woking. And that's just not going to help anybody at all. It's certainly not going to help your pupils, and it's not going to help your schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Karina.
Hi, thanks, Brian. Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on what Nikki was saying from Willowbank, that we're a small school as well. And whilst I totally appreciate what you've said, Ian, you know, the pay rises alone this year, I've had to find 44,000 that I hadn't budgeted for. So I've already had to lay staff off. And the chalk face in school at the moment is we've got several children with significant SEN challenges, you know, children that are very aggressive and running, and I've got staff on their knees. And if I reduce the staffing even more to meet this 1% or even 0.5%, I'm not going to have any staff left to meet the needs of these really complex children that shouldn't be in mainstream schools. And I just don't know how we do it. I think it will make the school situation, I understand what you're saying about children and families and what will happen, but the school situation now is desperate in lots of schools. And having less money. I mean, I've got a teaching deputy. I've only got a Senko for 1 day a week. I can't cut anywhere else other than staff. So that's the situation in my school, very similar to Nikki.
Thank you, Karina.
Likewise, Karina, we can arrange a catch-up out of the meetings if you to find out more and what we can pragmatically address the issue you just raised.
Okay, thanks, Ming.
True.
I'm not sure that it's come across clean enough what this funding is for. This funding is not to pay the council's expenses for the SEND team. This funding is to allow us to put in place some of the things to help you with exactly those situations you've described, where you've got children that need more support and you need this help from somewhere outside the school to support those children. And I completely understand where you're coming from. I really do. I was school governor for 20 years and more than 20 years, and the juggling and the difficult decisions and the cuts and the things that you've had to make over the last few years have been awful. But unless we find a shared way out of this, it's going to be worse. That's what I said. I suppose I don't think we're learning anything new from each other. Well, maybe we are a little bit, but I think we all know how bad the school funding is and how difficult it is in schools. And we know, and I wish the history was a bit different, but there hasn't historically been a very good relationship between the council and the schools. It's been a one where there hasn't historically been a lot of trust. We're trying to rebuild that trust, and I would really appreciate it if you could go away and think about whether 0.5% is manageable, and we could have another meeting to discuss that. I think I suppose that's all I want to say. I won't prolong it. That's it.
Thank you, Prue. Prue, to be honest, I feel, talking on a number of primary heads, and I'm sure Darren could talk on behalf of the secondary heads. We understand the issue. We understand where the council is. We understand that the money is not going to pay a debt. We appreciate and know through Jonathan's many talks with lots of schools and lots of heads and different organisations about what the money will be used for and how it's been used. But I think what those heads are trying to explain to you is just that, yes, that is going to serve a certain need, but when you've got high needs, well, certain difficulties within your school, you need bodies, and money's been taken away, that's where it becomes even more of a challenge. I think it's just having that understanding there. But I think everyone's under the understanding of what needs to be done, what we're trying to achieve with this 1%. But there's immediate issues that are facing schools currently, and that this needs to be taken note of, I feel.
No, and it is. So, I mean, I think I just feel like there's no point in having a vote of 1%. It's not going to happen. I can imagine that Schools Forum members would not want to vote against the consultation, even if they were minded to do so, which I'm sure they're not. So that's not where we are. But I think a few more weeks to discuss point 5 and to actually look at the implications of that might be beneficial.
One thing I see as positive is collectively, we do not just say no, they go to the Secretary of State to overrule this. We come up with local, pragmatic second plan B, if you like. I think that's something I feel is positive. But we need to make sure it will work. And by putting more effort, including local authority effort to policy prove that we need to, someone have to pay the top of the gut. Yeah, positive will come from
it is really important. Sorry, I haven't said this, and I think I need to say it again. The thing that matters most to me out of this, and I think for all our futures, is that we come up with an answer collectively. Because if we end up in a situation where, I'm not saying this would happen, but we had to go and demand a ministerial override, as we have done in previous years, that is the collapse of all the work that we've put in to try and get schools to work with us, to understand us, for us to understand you better and to build a better relationship. And I really, really don't want that to happen. I really want us to work together and to have that trust between us as different parts of the same system. And that is so important, because we will never get out of the problems we're in if we don't manage to work together. So that's really, this is really important.
Yeah. Thank you, Prue. Right, just sort of quickly summarising on that. After discussions we've had outside of the School Forum meeting, and there's a number of us on this on the membership there who've been privy to these conversations and talking with me, is that we're proposing that we do not vote for the 1% today, that we'll have extra meeting on either this. We're looking at either the 6th of November, the 8th of November, if I'm right, Ming. And we'll go back out to schools, look at the 0.5 transfer, and look at what that consultation tells us from those schools, and then what that meeting will have that feedback there, and then we can look at having a vote to move forward on the 0.5%. Is it worth just having a vote to say that everyone is happy with that way of moving forward? Ian, before Luciana comes in. Oh, everyone's happy with the vote. Great, thank you. Yeah, if everyone's happy with that, they just put the vote now, whether they're happy to move forward with an extra meeting on that week of November to just to finalise the transfer.
Brian, do you want to set the date for the extraordinary meeting now, so people get it in their diaries?
Ming was looking at his diary. I think it was either going to be the 6th or the 8th of November. Yes. Okay. So if everyone's happy with that, if they want to vote now to say yes, that we'll have that vote on that meeting. That's great. Thank you, everyone. We've got the majority of the people coming through for that one. So we'll look at that meeting. There'll be a consultation that will go out. Ming, Jonathan, I'm sure myself and Darren would be happy to meet with you to discuss some of the wording that you want to take out to schools regarding that revised consultation. Darren, did you want to start a comment?
Sorry, legacy hand.
Legacy hand. Carol, same, or would you like a comment?
This is going to be an extremely unpopular comment, I think, but somebody mentioned earlier, and Catherine mentioned it as well, there are schools with very, very large balances and above what used to be considered to be reasonable balances. Is that something we've considered looking at?
Yes.
I'll get my hard hat on.
Yeah, yes, we have, but obviously we can only affect the maintained schools. So that would be our scheme for financing schools. We need to change it, would need to get agreed by schools forum that we could claw back excess balances, but that would only be the maintained schools we could do that for. We couldn't touch academies balances. So that is something that we could do, and we have considered, we're thinking about putting that in, yeah, to get some funding in that way, to redistribute the funding out, but obviously it will be going out to everyone, whereas we'd only be taking it off of the maintained schools. So yeah,
that doesn't feel fair.
Sorry, Carol.
Just to confirm further to back up Catherine just saying, under Section 115 officers' duty, we do need to look at those issue out of school balance, and then collectively we find a decision what are we going to do about that.
But it doesn't feel fair to only get that contribution from maintained schools and not academies.
I think, Shirley, I think you need to be really careful, because if you looked at my budget when I first arrived 6 years ago, I was in major deficit. Because I've now got the lag funding issue, then actually, because I've budgeted, so I think you're penalising schools who have budgeted and allowing schools who have misbudgeted. So I actually feel very uncomfortable about that. I feel strongly about that. And I think some of the primary schools and maintained schools have actually had to save some funding in order to look at going into a MAT and what they're going to do, because actually sometimes they have to look at how they're going to do that. So I think that would be very unfair. So if you've misjudged your budget, kind of calculated, not managed it correctly, that's fine. But if you've managed it, we're saying that's fine as a forum. Well done for overspending and not having any balance. And then if you've got a balanced budget and you've got some reserves, we're actually now going to look at that to bail this out for actually, I would consider what is misspent money. So I think you've got to be really careful about how you look at that and to make that fair, because that's like saying, so how many of you, if you've got credit in your bank account, would be happy? So if you've got £10,000 in your bank account, the government said, because you've got £10,000, you're getting interest on it. Somebody who's minus £10,000 and having to pay interest, we're going to take your £10,000 to pay off their mortgage because they can't pay it. Just an analogy.
Yeah, I think I agree. You need to be carefully look into, probably not for policy agenda item to address that, but probably school forum. I think, well, you chair agree on another occasions we can look at this, as Shirley and Carol suggest, but look into that very carefully, and let have to be a collective decision how we can look at what kind of process, or indeed whether you want to look into that in more detail or not. I think have to come from school forum. I don't think today we can address this.
No, I don't think, to be fair, that is going to be a very fair option. But one, because the majority of the maintained schools are primary now, and none of those primary schools are the ones that are in financial difficulties. So there's not going to be a lot there. And you just said it's through academies, where the other schools that probably got a larger fund and that cannot be touched. So I don't think that's a viable option really to be looking at. I think we need to look at the 0.5%. Firstly, consultation across all schools, and take that feedback, and then hope that we can move forward with it in the next meeting. I think that's the one that we should be focusing on. Okay, right. So we'll meet when we'll just move forward on that consultation with Jonathan, and then we can come back to the next meeting. If we can just get that date confirmed as quickly as possible, so everyone can have that in the diary, because I think it's going to be crucial that everyone can attend that meeting to finalise that decision. Thank you. I think that is all the items there. Is there any other business that anyone else wants to raise? Me.
Chair, thank you, Chair. Just now when you asked me a question about independent early years input, I was a little bit caught up, because I think there's one correction, Lucian, that Berkshire Education Partnership should read Borough Education Partnership. There's an error there. So right. That's why I concentrate on that. So to answer that question, I can come back. We haven't got an independent provider to nominate someone for that BEP group yet, but we will work with the chair to find a right representative to BEP. So it's not Berkshire Education Partnership, it's the Borough Education Partnership. Just one correction. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, so we will be having an extra meeting, and then we've got the rest of our poor planning all booked in. Lucina and I just discussed about whether people would be interested in having a face-to-face meeting at some point this year, and possibly the one I think was in March, but we could discuss that maybe at the next meeting. If there's no other business, we will finish.
Isn't there a fourth program item in the agenda?
There is. Whichever, I haven't got that in my pack here. So the next meeting will be when it's confirmed with Ming coming out, and then the meeting after that, Lucina.
Yes, I'll confirm as soon as. Well, I think the dates that have been suggested were the 6th or the 8th of November, either of those.
Yeah.
There is a fourth program item on page 79, but that's just for noting. I don't think that we need a discussion.
No, just noting that, yes. Yeah. Great, thank you. If there's nothing else, we can close the meeting and look forward to seeing everyone for the extra meeting on either the 6th or the 8th of November. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ming, did you want to hold on for a minute, Ming?
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.